Greetings. I am live, and I'm going to start right off with something of a bombshell statement. These are not my words. For the first time, the US FDA, that's the United States Food and Drug Administration, for the first time, the US FDA will acknowledge that COVID-19 vaccines have killed American children. I'm going to repeat that. For the first time, the US FDA will acknowledge that COVID-19 vaccines have killed American children. Greetings and welcome to Act One, a Canadian take on news events. And I've been digging deeply into this story about the United States Food and Drug Administration and their seeming about face and their open admission through a leaked email. And what the quote that I am reading is cited in the British Medical Journal, and they cite this as being directly from the leaked email. Sorry for the lateness in getting my stream going this evening. I wanted to start at 10:30, but we have a new puppy in this household, Max the Wonder Dog. Come here. He's sitting right next to me. He likes to sit up on a chair on the dining room table. He thinks he's a human, don't you? I'm looking right at him. He's right there. You can come and you can say hi, but no, now he's content. He has what my 12-year-old refers to, or was having, what my 12-year-old refers to as the zoomies, just running around helter skelter, going nuts. Which made getting the stream going this evening a little difficult. Nancy has shown up, and Nancy is one of the moderators here, as is Danny. We'll see if Danny shows up. And Whale Oil Beef, a valued contributor who has furnished me with, well, a lot of people on the channel furnish me with content. They give me ideas, they send me down so-called rabbit holes. I start digging and I learn. And I'm very appreciative of everyone who participates in the live streams. Whale, Nancy, Danny, Sharunian, Max Power, who my dog is not named after, but that's the name. His name is Max, right, Max? But now he's content to just lay down. He doesn't have the zoomies anymore. I should let you say hi to him. Come here. Come here. He's getting big. He's getting big. Max the Wonder Dog, a purebred mongrel hound. He's got border collie, he's got boxer, he's got Springer Spaniel. We think there might be some lab mixed in here as well. I love his white mantle. He's got 4 white paws. You can see the 2 front ones, and he's sliding off my lap. So there, I've introduced Max. And given that it's now 10:46, I'll get into the meat of what I want to talk about. I am not going to contradict what the FDA is saying. The Food and Drug Administration in the United States is going to be acknowledging, they say in the quote, they will acknowledge that COVID-19 vaccines have killed American children. And I am not going to contradict that because I do not have the requisite background educationally or in medical research. I'm not a doctor, so I cannot contradict someone like the gentleman who wrote this. His name is Dr. Prasad. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right or not. Vinay Prasad, Vinay Prasad. I did a little background check into his bona fides or bona fides, if you prefer that pronunciation, into his background. He completed his medical degree at the University of Chicago. He did a residency in internal medicine at Northwestern, certified in internal medicine by the American Board of Internal Medicine in 2012, earned a master's of public health from Johns Hopkins, did a joint fellowship in oncology cancer research. Oncology, I believe, is specifically zeroed in on cancer at the National Cancer Institute, and hematology at the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. So that I do not have the background to criticize Dr. Prasad. And besides which, as we all lived during the COVID pandemic, you were not on YouTube, certainly, you were not allowed to contradict authoritative government voices. If the CDC, if the FDA, if Dr. Anthony Fauci proclaimed something, if you went counter narrative, if you went against the grain, then your content would be removed. And I had content removed because I had the temerity, the gall to question what was the official dictate of the authorities on high. So I'm not going to contradict the United States Food and Drug Administration. If they say that the COVID-19 vaccines have killed American children, fair enough. Now, I am gratified to see that the censorship that we all lived through during the COVID era, when you weren't allowed to question things, has eased off. Now you can question. Now the media is rife with criticism of this new direction, this new proclamation by the Food and Drug Administration. Would have been nice if we could have seen the same amplification of criticism of protocols during the COVID era, amplified in social media, in the mainstream legacy media, but instead they suppressed it. Now they're amplifying it. Now, I guess it's okay to contradict government health officials. This is mind blowing to me. What has happened is that there are 12 former directors with the Food and Drug Administration. So individuals who held the position of director, and I imagine there are at any one given time a number of directors at the FDA, and they have published a paper called a perspective piece to the New England Journal of Medicine. And the title of it is A Threat to Evidence-Based Vaccine Policy and Public Health Security at the FDA. So they are taking direct aim at their former employer, the FDA, and saying that the FDA now represents a threat to evidence-based vaccine policy and public health security at the FDA. And during the COVID era, if you contradicted the CDC, the FDA, or any, the Anthony Fauci's of the world, you would be maligned, you would be censored, your career might just be destroyed. But again, I'm glad to see that we're opening things up for debate. And I've gone, and what I have done is I've looked into the backgrounds of the authors of this perspective piece. And these are 12 former commissioners of the Food and Drug Administration, and they're expressing concern that the agency's recent moves will undermine a regulatory model designed to ensure vaccine safety, effectiveness, and availability. And I wanted to look into the background of these 12 authors, these 12 former directors, commissioners, whatever their titles happen to be. And I'm actually writing it out in a Patreon piece. I so far, there are 12 authors. So far, I've looked into the background of 7 of these directors, commissioners, whatever their title may be. The first one in the paper, his name is Robert M. Califf, Califf. And he has been a paid consultant to Merck, Sharp and Dohme, Johnson & Johnson, GlaxoSmithKline, AstraZeneca, Eli Lilly. So here's an individual who is working directly as a consultant with the pharmaceutical industry. Does that represent a conflict of interest? I'll leave that as an open question. The next author is Andrew C. von Eschenbach. And I will, once I have published my Patreon piece, I will put it as a comment. I will pin a comment with a link to what I've written. So Andrew C. von Eschenbach, he joined Greenleaf Health after leaving the FDA, and they counsel pharmaceutical clients. And then he started his own consulting company. So, again, someone working directly with the pharmaceutical industry. There's Michael Friedman, Michael A. Friedman. He left the FDA to join pharmaceutical company Searle, Searle, as Senior Vice President of Clinical Affairs, and then later became the Chief Medical Officer for Biomedical Preparedness at the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America. So, a pharmaceutical industry group, and he goes to work for them. Then we have Brett P. Giroir, French name, French origin, Giroir, Giroir. In November 2016, he served as the president and CEO of Veracyte, a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company, biopharmaceutical. Scott Gottlieb, he is on the board of directors at Pfizer and is the chairman of the board of directors at gene sequencing company Illumina Incorporated. Then we have Margaret A. Hamburg. She is on the board at, and I have trouble with the name, Alnilam Pharmaceuticals. And according to the information I've read, she is affiliated with the World Economic Forum. And on April 6, 2021, she participated as a speaker at a WE event, a World Economic Forum event titled The Next Frontier, Synthetic Biology. And though to me that's an oxymoron, biology is naturally occurring, synthetic is man made. But this strikes me as another way of saying they call it biodigital convergence, or sometimes you'll hear the term transhumanism, basically taking the digital synthetic world and the biological natural world and merging the two. And then the last one that I've looked into, number 7 of the 12, I haven't researched them all yet. The last name is Jane E. Henney. And during her tenure at the FDA, this is priceless. They placed under her direction, there was a ban placed on supplements and natural products that contain something called lovostatin, Lovastatin, which is a naturally occurring component in things like mushrooms. And what this did by banning natural products that contain this lovastatin, this effectively handed exclusivity for cholesterol lowering compounds to the pharmaceutical industry. And then in 2012, she was appointed to the board of directors of a pharmaceutical company. What a shock. Cubist Pharmaceuticals. And this is what we hear about all the time. It is a conversion, or rather not just, you can almost call it a convergence, but it's a revolving door between the regulatory agencies that are supposed to be overseeing the pharmaceutical industry and the pharmaceutical industry itself. It is the proverbial foxes watching the henhouse. You have individuals who are regulators who are supposed to be policing the pharmaceutical industry, but as soon as they world, where do they go? They go and they sit on the board of Pfizer. They sit on the board of this pharmaceutical, that pharmaceutical company. They go to work at consulting firms that their clients are the pharmaceutical companies. They are beholden to, it would seem reasonable to assume that they are beholden to the pharmaceutical industry. And so when I see a paper like this that they have written to the New England Journal of Medicine, I'm doing the classic follow the money. I am following the money. Thank you for tuning in. I do not think this content will be amplified on YouTube. I do not think this is the type of content that big tech wants being spread throughout the digital sphere. If this is the type of content, I am sure, will it be throttled? Maybe, maybe not, but it is certainly not going to be amplified. And so I will encourage anyone who enjoys the content here. Number one, just subscribe. Number two, share the content. Not all of it. Sometimes my videos are crap. I know that. Sometimes the content isn't very engaging. But when you do enjoy something, I invite you to share it out and let others know. I have had a lot of fun over the last 24 hours or so talking about this. Did you hear that the FDA has now admitted that the COVID-19 vaccines have killed American children? And it's amazing to see the responses I'm getting from those who I consider to be willfully compliant and blind and just whatever you say during the COVID era. You want me to get a shot? You want me to get two? You want me to get boosted every other week? Hey, whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do because you're the recognized authority and there's this pervasive message in the zeitgeist, and I'm just going to follow along blindly. And so when I brought this up, because most people know that I chose to refuse the COVID vaccine. I did not get it. And that caused me a lot of grief. A lot of grief. I was gaslit. And if you're unfamiliar with the term, it's been around for a while, and a lot of people have heard it, but not everyone knows what it means. To gaslight someone is to make them feel like they're crazy. And oh, you did your own research. You're one of those. I had to put up with that. Well, now I'm getting to flip it around. When they say, well, and some people are following this, and they say, well, there are doctors who say, oh, so you're going to contradict the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. You know, the Food and Drug Administration that is there to ensure the safety and efficacy of the drug supply and the development program. You're going to contradict that, are you? You did your own research, did you? And oh, people get angry. Oh, they get angry. Guy at work today got angry. Well, I don't, let's be a, huh? What's good for the goose is not good for the gander in the eyes of a lot of people. Let's read. I enjoy my live stream for the fact that it allows me to interact with people, and get ideas. Whale oil beef, whale oil beef clued me into the fact that there was just recently, September, October, and November in the United Kingdom, they just ran Exercise Pegasus, basically table topping out the most comprehensive government exercise around a fictitious pandemic, an endovirus related to swine flu. And they just tabletop this out pervasively throughout all government departments in England, the Republic of Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, the four parts of the British Isles. And I did a video on that yesterday. So this is why I enjoy the live chat. Eat Me, Nancy is wishing everyone a good evening. And for some reason, Wales telling, I need a desktop swivel mirror in order to be able to show everyone Max, who's now crashed out after his Zoomies. Everyone's saying good evening. And then Whale is asking if any of those 7 names that I just enumerated from the article, from this New England Journal of medicine. Well, it's called a perspective piece. I'm going to call it a hit piece. And they're, attacking this guy, Vinay Prasad, for daring to question the efficacy and perhaps the lethality of the COVID vaccines. And again, I'm not going to contradict the FDA. They are the recognized authority in the United States that determines how pharmaceutical products like vaccines are approved. And I may not have the requisite educational background in the sciences to offer expert opinion, but I do know this: science takes time. And I know my history. I know that in the 1950s, they came out with a drug, an anti-nausea drug that was called thalidomide. You might have heard of the children of thalidomide. It's included in Billy Joel's famous song, "We Didn't Start the Fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning." And one of the lines, it goes through, uh, children of thalidomide, bum, 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 bum. We didn't start the fire. JFK blown away. What more do I have to say? And one of the lines is children of thalidomide. It was an anti-nausea drug that was on the market for 5 years. The only problem was they never tested it on pregnant women. And any woman who's been pregnant, or any man who has been around, who's been married to a pregnant woman, nausea is common. A lot of morning sickness. And now there's a drug, I believe it's called diclectin. But back in the 1950s, the drug being given to pregnant women was thalidomide. And what started happening is children started to be born with malformed limbs. Instead of fully formed arms, they just had little tiny what basically looked like flippers. And the pharmaceutical industry said, well, it's not that, there's no proof that it's our drug. Could be environmental, could be lifestyle, could be any number of things. There's no causational link. Correlation does not prove causation. It took 5 years. Thalidomide was on the market for 5 years. And then after 5 years, a causational link was found and thalidomide was removed from the market. Science takes time. And a lot of people will say, yeah, but that was in the 1950s. That kind of stuff couldn't happen, in the 21st century. And that was the 50s. That was bygone era. Well, then look up Bextra, Bextra, Bravo, Echo, X-ray, Tango, Romeo Alpha, Bextra. It was approved as a safe and effective anti-inflammatory in the year 2000. So not ancient history. In the year 2000, safe and effective anti-inflammatory pharmaceutical product from Pfizer. CNN News brought to you by Pfizer. The Oscars brought to you by Pfizer. Tonight's evening news brought to you by Pfizer. Now they had their anti-inflammatory drug on the market for 5 years. And then in 2005, it was removed from the market. Why? Because of heart damage and deaths. You can read about it. They ended up paying. They were charged with bribing physicians, bribing members of the medical community, bribing them, and with falsifying or withholding negative trial results. You have a trial with 500 people in it, 3 people die. You go, oh, okay, we're just going to remove them from the trial. Now we have 497 trial participants. What about those 3? They're not in the trial anymore. So whatever happened to them, it's not included in their data set. Oh, isn't that convenient? That's so they were charged with fraudulent marketing practices, bribing physicians, withholding negative trial results, and they ended up paying billions of dollars in fines. And now we have the FDA coming out and admitting, saying for the first time, the US FDA, United States Food and Drug Administration, will acknowledge that COVID-19 vaccines have killed American children. And the number they're putting on it so far, they said they've identified 10 children so far. And this is being described as the proverbial tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg. How many? And I'm here to ask the question, especially given the manner in which the vaccine mandates rolled out. Oh, you want to play hockey? You want to play baseball? You want to play soccer? You want to join you want to join the Boy Scouts? You want to go to Tim Hortons summer camp? Well, you have to be vaccinated. You talk about coercion. And now how many children have died? The US FDA is saying now that it has identified so far 10 that it is saying that the COVID-19 vaccines killed them. How many is too many? That's a question. Because that was one of the arguments that was put forward to me today by someone who blindly went along with everything during the what they called the pandemic. Is well, there are going to be some deaths. It's going to happen there, but 10. So yeah, that's what they found so far. If it was your kid, during COVID, when COVID was going on, many people were saying that the draconian measures and the government overreach were all justified if they saved one life. If the havoc that we're wreaking on the development of our children by closing their schools, by shutting down support to vulnerable populations, all this is worth it if it saves one life. And I rather harshly will say, is it worth destroying the life of a child to give one 90-plus-year-old in long-term care a few extra months of diaper changes? Really? I know that's harsh, but that unfortunately sometimes the truth and reality is not kind. And death is always tragic. Whether it's a 90-plus-year-old living out their final days in a long-term care facility, or if it's a child who gets a vaccine just because he wants to play hockey. And there is a young child, his father, and I don't know the name specifically, maybe someone here does, but he's made it something, a father has made it something of his cause celeb to amplify the fact that his child died after getting the COVID vaccine. And the reason the child got the COVID vaccine was simply because the child desperately wanted to play hockey, and the association he played for would not allow him to lace up his skates unless he had proof of COVID-19 vaccination. And now that kid is dead. And his dad is heartbroken to this day. This was 4 or 5 years ago. And so I am going to recommend, number one, if you like this content, subscribe, like, share. And because if anything is going to be throttled, it is this. When you look at the World Economic Forum, Bourla, who is the CEO of Pfizer, has been at the World Economic Forum. He's got, I would imagine he has a front row seat. The pharmaceutical industry is there. So are governments, so is academia, and obviously the corporate sector. Pharmaceutical and the tech giants, the Googles, the Metas, they're all there. And they're unified and they're coordinated and they have a message. And that's the message they want promulgated throughout the digital sphere on their platforms like what I'm using right now, YouTube. I am not saying anything, just to be clear. I am not qualified to offer an opinion. I fully acknowledge that Vinay Prasad, the gentleman with the FDA, and let's see, I've got it here on his biography. Um, he's an American hematologist, oncologist, and health researcher, and he is the director of the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, a branch of the US FDA, and he was a professor of epidemiology and biostatistics at the University of California, San Francisco, and he's author of two books, two more than I've written, and he is eminently qualified to express an expert opinion. I'm not, so I'm not going to contradict him. And I'm not going to, these former FDA commissioners, and I have five more names to go through on the list of the other names are Mark B. McClellan, MD, PhD, Stephen Ostroff, MD, Norman E. Sharpless, Janet Woodcoe or Woodcock, but usually I find when COCK is at the end of a name, it's Scottish and it's pronounced Co, Woodcoe. And I'm going to research the other five, and I'm going to finish off my Patreon piece, but I'm going to call it a night otherwise. I think I've said enough, and I probably walked right up to that line that YouTube has, and who knows? All they have to do is say medical misinformation and share any medical information in this at all. I shared some history about thalidomide and Bextra. That's just history. Thalidomide on the market for 5 years, removed. Bextra on the market for 5 years, removed. Why was thalidomide removed? Because of birth defects, malformed limbs, history. Why was Bextra removed from the market in 2005? Because of adverse events, primarily death and heart damage. History. Now, I'm bowing the knee in a fashion to the recognized medical authorities. And the recognized medical authority in the United States, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, is saying that they're going to be acknowledging that COVID-19 vaccines have killed American children, and I'm going to run with that. I'm going to comply now with, and I'm going to amplify what the medical authorities in the United States of America are saying, realizing that at the same time, the Canadian medical authorities are going their own way. Canada normally follows the United States lockstep. You approve, we approve. You approve Moderna, we'll approve Moderna. You approved AstraZeneca, we'll approve AstraZeneca. You approve Johnson Johnson, we'll approve Johnson Johnson. You approve Pfizer, we'll approve Pfizer. Yeah, there's just some have equated it, some have equated it to a rubber stamp. Whatever the U.S. says, Bob's your uncle. We're doing it too. Let me read off the last few messages. And Nancy, with reference to Billy Joel's epic song, "We Didn't Start the Fire." She's referring to it as an epic history song. Check it out. Just, Coca-Cola wars, all the things that have gone on, Cuban Missile Crisis, there's constantly strife, trouble, things to be anxious about in this world. And then Nancy's further saying, I think this is with respect to thalidomide, is that the worst is that after the US banned thalidomide, I believe you're talking about thalidomide, that it took an extra 2 or 3 years before Canada did the same. Hey, farmers, I looked into, the pharmaceutical industry, global pharmaceutical industry. So all these companies, Pfizer, Moderna, GlaxoSmithKline, Merck, GSK is GlaxoSmithKline, Johnson and Johnson, Eli Lilly, Sanofi, like There are hundreds, thousands of biotech companies out there, Novartis, AstraZeneca. They're ubiquitous, they're everywhere. And globally, their revenue stream is north of 1 trillion, not billion, over $1 trillion globally. In the United States, just in the United States alone, I don't know, the US is 350 million out of 8 billion, 8 point whatever billion we are now. US is, they're what, less than 10% of the world's population, but they make up basically half or more than half of the world's. That's where most of the revenue to the pharmaceutical industry comes from, is the United States. Maybe the biggest in the world, I assume it is. And that it may be more than the rest of the world combined. And the United States, the pharmaceutical industry brings in north of 600 billion, and that is projected by 2030 to climb north of 800 billion. So the pharmaceutical industry is very happy with the status quo. Things are going very well. Revenues are astronomical and they're continuing to grow. And now you have the FDA coming in and saying, well, wait a minute, maybe we need to revisit the way in which we grant approvals to pharmaceutical products like vaccines. And they're like, oh, our profit. What about our profits? We've been paying, we've been, charged with bribing physicians and fraudulent data. This costs money. Enough to drive you crazy. And then Nancy's writing, the name is not extra. I forget, but I was on it after a work accident. It was potent. Bextra, Bextra, was an anti-inflammatory drug. That was the brand name. You'll know that most, like ibuprofen, is branded. You can get Motrin, that's ibuprofen. You can get Advil, that's ibuprofen, or you can just get, a generic ibuprofen. So Bextra was the Pfizer brand name for their product, approved as a safe and effective anti-inflammatory in the year 2000. Removed from the market in 2005 because of deaths and heart damage. I've read up a lot about it. Nancy's writing that it was VIOXX. And then she goes, okay, also Bextra. Yeah, drugs sometimes often have tons of names. They have a chemical name with a lot of letters, then they'll have a scientific name, and then they'll have a brand name. At any rate, Whale is writing, skewed. Anyone experience an adverse event who was not fully waxed up to date was considered unwaxed in the, oh yeah, the manner in which they, and what kills me now is one of the criticisms that the FDA and this Dr. Prasad are getting is they're saying, where are the details? Where are the details? Show us the details. You're not providing any evidence to prove that these children that you're saying died, that were killed by the COVID vaccines, you're not giving us any evidence. Well, where was the evidence when they said that someone died of COVID? 98 years old, can't feed, bathe, toilet, dress themselves, dies in their sleep, and they go, oh, he died of COVID. Well, where's the proof? Well, we don't have to. Privacy. We're not allowed to divulge that because of privacy. Just trust us. It was a COVID death. There was a coroner, ABC News reported, a coroner in the state of Colorado was complaining that she had to include in her small rural area 2 individuals who died of gunshot wounds in a murder-suicide, and she was forced. She had to include them with the COVID death totals because they had a positive COVID test. But they didn't die of COVID, they died of gunshot wounds. But the protocol, as stipulated by the World Health Organization, under the guise of we need this for tracking the spread of the disease, any death with COVID is listed in with the COVID death totals. Toronto Public Health tweeted that out on their official Twitter account. This is back before it was X. They put it out and they said all deaths, regardless of the cause, if a person dies with a positive COVID test, they will be included with the COVID death totals, even if COVID was not the cause of their death. That was fine. I've spoken many times on this channel about a young 14-year-old in Alberta who died of stage 4 inoperable brain cancer, and they tried to blame it on COVID, and they wouldn't release his medical condition because of privacy concerns. They said, well, he has underlying medical health issues, but we're not going to divulge that. It's the privacy concerns. We're not going to tell you. But then thankfully, that child's family went public and said, Nathan didn't die of COVID. He had stage 4 inoperable brain cancer. He was in palliative care, probably on a morphine drip to keep him comfy. And they blamed it on COVID. And Gina Hinshaw, Chief Medical Officer of Health for the province of Alberta, once it became public that the child had been suffering from stage 4 inoperable terminal brain cancer, she then came clean and said, well, okay, it wasn't a COVID death. We made a mistake, she said. It was an error in judgment. And pardon the swearing, but I say bullshit. She knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted a child death to promote the vaccine for kids. And now we have the US FDA saying that they are going to be acknowledging, or that they are acknowledging, that the COVID-19 vaccines have killed American children. And if they killed American children, is there any real difference between American and Canadian children? No. I, I'm not a medical expert. I don't think there's any difference between American children and Canadian children, not a significant difference. We live in a slightly colder climate much of the time, but not necessarily. Look at Minnesota. Minnesota's colder than where I am, but that's a divergent point. Anyway, um, there was so much. The COVID era still gets under my skin, and it gets under my skin to the degree to which so many in the population refuse to recognize how badly they were duped. And then Nancy goes on to say, I took, and she gives a what I assume to be a pharmaceutical product, nacotinase, each time they had another dose propaganda. Took a bus that had a stop close to a mass Covax site and was worried about the shedding effect. I never worried too much about shedding, to be entirely honest. I figure I have an immune system. God gave me an immune system, not the pharmaceutical industry, and it doesn't, you know, and also I don't have this irrational, crazy fear of death, which I think our society does. Our society is incredibly, it's been indoctrinated into us that this life is all there is. And so people are holding on with both hands. And this drug will, give you another year of life. I'll take it. People talk about me, I am a smoker. Uh, and they say, well, smoking takes 10 years off your life. And I look at them and go, yeah, but it's the last 10. So I miss dementia. So I miss adult diapers. So I miss not knowing what day of the week it is. Now, if you told me it was the 10 years between 15 and 25, well, that would be different. But if I get to miss all the, using a walker and wearing adult Depends or something like that, oh, well, I'm going home. Anyway, uh, Wales writing that, yes, same. The wax lineups were long. I was taking quercetin and K2, as I recall, to prevent shedding as best I understood. A lot of people were looking very hard trying to get what I'll call black market ivermectin and stuff. I didn't worry about it myself. Uh, and then Nancy's writing that Celebrex is the only one allowed from that area and that they would comply. Natto is a natural supplement uh, and part of a spike detox plan. This what she put down, nattokinase or whatever it is, I can't read it, is part of it. And Whale is channeling Danny Copeland, who normally is on the stream 99% of the time, but hasn't shown up tonight. He always puts up Jesus is King, and Whale is stepping in for Danny and writing it on behalf of Danny. Jesus is King. So, anyway, that's the stream, folks. Thanks for watching. Probably not going to do one tomorrow night. Tonight was really a challenge to get it going because the house was so busy. Had to get Max, the wonder dog, out for a walk. Now he's just crashed out on a chair. Uh, and I like the Nancy's writing Amen Whale with reference to Jesus is King. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And if you want to navigate a world filled with lies, where one day we're told you absolutely have to listen to whatever the, certified medical authorities, government medical authorities, you absolutely have to listen. You have to do exactly what they say. You have to believe everything they tell you. And now we've gone and flipped at 180 degrees. No, don't listen to the FDA. Don't listen to what they have to say. They're lying now. It's like, and they wonder, is there any wonder why so much of the population has lost total trust, broadly speaking, in government, but also in the health profession? I think people are slowly waking up to how deeply embedded members of the medical profession are in with the profit-driven pharmaceutical industry. Profit-driven pharmaceutical industry. They made tons of money off those COVID vaccines. Crap loads of money off those COVID vaccines. Rushed through development at warp speed. There was one individual I was reading up on this. One of the see my there's one individual who wrote on that paper who was put in charge of warp speed in 2021. But that'll be in my Patreon piece. One of the authors of that piece, one of the authors of that perspective piece in the New England Journal of Medicine became the senior head lead of the Warp Speed program in 2021 after the vaccines had started to roll out. And it was shortly thereafter that they destroyed the placebo group. They unblinded the trial, and then they started giving the vaccine, not placebo, to those who had been in the placebo control group. And what that did is it effectively eliminated, wiped out the ability to track adverse events and have any manner of which to determine, what's the rate of heart damage in the vaccinated group. Well, it's whatever it is. It's 5 per 1,000 or whatever. Okay, how does that compare with the placebo group? Well, we don't have enough members in the placebo group to make a meaningful comparison. So we can't compare the two because we destroyed the placebo group. We got rid of it. We only, we had 50,000, 25,000 dosed, 25,000 undosed, but now we only have a few hundred in the placebo group because some of the people in the placebo group declined to get the vaccine, but not very many. Most people who were offered the COVID vaccine took, when they found out people would sign up for the trial, they would not know whether they were injected with mRNA or with salt water, saline solution. They didn't know. And the individuals administering the shots did not know. Everything is done by lot number. And there would be a body kind of behind the curtain, so to speak, something called the Data Safety Monitoring Board. They would know which patients had received the vaccine and which had received saline solution, but not the investigators, not the clinical participants. And they unblinded the trial and they said to everyone, okay, you 25,000, you did not receive the mRNA. You did not receive the Pfizer Moderna mRNA. You received saline. Would you like to receive the mRNA? And overwhelmingly, people said yes. And if you think about it, it makes sense because these are individuals who volunteered for a medical trial. Many were hoping, I imagine, that they would be part of the dosed group. Oh, this is a chance for me. I got a 50-50 shot. I'm getting the vaccine. They branded it a vaccine, even though in order to call it a vaccine, they had to change the definition of what a vaccine is. Before COVID, a vaccine was a substance that contained a causative agent of the actual, it would contain the actual virus either live or dead, attenuated, one of the two. And we used to call vaccines immunizations. I was talking to a guy today at work, and he made reference to his immunization. I got the COVID immunization, but I still got COVID 2 times. And then I said, well, then you didn't get an immunization. He goes, no, it's on my immunization record. And I said, yeah, but what does immunization mean? What does it mean to be immunized? It means you're immune. Everyone, pretty much everyone I know, got the measles vaccine. And I don't know a single person who got the measles vaccine who has ever gotten measles. I don't know anyone who got the polio vaccine who contracted polio. And yet, pretty much everyone I know who got the COVID vaccine has still gotten sick with COVID. So it's the non-immunizing immunization, the vaccine that doesn't vaccinate. Anyway, I'm stepping right up to the line. Uh, anyway, let's finish this off. Oh, Whale is bringing up about the ferrets in an earlier mRNA. They worked on mRNA for 20-ish years trying to get an approved product, and they could never get out of the trial stage. And in one of the trials, they used as the animal group, they used ferrets. And all the ferrets died. Here's what Whale wrote. All the ferrets died. Yeah, but every animal suffering is cold. Yeah, all the ferrets died, and it was due to something called AED, acquired enhanced immune deficiency, or something like that. It basically screwed up the ferret's immune system. Um, Enhanced immune deficiencies. I believe the acronym was AED, and I can't remember what acquired enhanced immune deficiency or something like that. And what I read on it is that it messed up the ferret's immune system. And so they couldn't even get out of the animal stage. And that was frequently a line. People would say, well, it's brand new. And they go, no, it's not new. They've been working on it for 20 years. Okay, how many approved products did they get? Well, none. Couldn't get one product out of the clinical stage until they rushed it through at warp speed, until they took phase 1, 2, and 3 and merged them and just ran them all at the same time. They could never make it to phase 3 before. With the ferret study, they couldn't get out of the animal studies. So rather, what they do is they took one trial and they combined phase 1, 2, and 3 together and ran them concurrently. Normally, what happens is you have first you have clinical, you have work in the lab, and if that yields results, then you move into an animal group like ferrets, like rats. And if the results are good in an animal study, then you move on to a phase 1 clinical trial, typically small in scope. And its primary objective is to test safety. Do people get violently sick? Do people die? And if you, after phase 1 is done, pour through the results And if everything has gone well, then you design phase two. You go to the FDA, you say, here's our design for phase two. The FDA says, okay, leave it with us. We'll review it. We may accept it as it's written. We might make mandate certain changes be done. You need a larger group. Um, you need to you need to modify your trial somewhat. But once it's approved, then you do phase two, and phase two is typically referred to as an efficacy trial. Now it's not just safety is still being looked at, but now does the agent being tested, does it actually do what it is hypothesized it will do? And if phase two is successful, you take the results, pour over them, then you design a phase three. And a phase three is a large trial, mammoth in scope, lots of patient years, and it's designed to garner regulatory approval. COVID vaccines, they did one, two, and three all together. They ran them concurrently. Anyway, and then Nancy's writing, "Oh yeah, if you have clear skies tomorrow, we will surely have an aurora borealis, aka the Northern Lights. Another major sunspot erupted." And then Whale is writing, "If you are enlisted, you are a tailless ferret in many cases." And yeah, if you're signing up for those trials. Um, And Whale saying, no need to read this comment. Too late. It's good night. Anyway, as I like to end my videos, and I'm going to keep it under an hour for a change, may the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. And may the Lord God Almighty grant you peace. Even in a crazy world where we have the Food and Drug Administration in the United States now acknowledging that COVID vaccines have killed American children, even in a world with such, thalidomide, Dextra, people dying because of the pharmaceutical products they put, their faith and trust in. You can still have faith, trust, and assurance in a God that loves you, in a God that sent his son to die for you, to take on your sin and to reconcile you to a perfect, holy, and righteous God. So if you take away anything from this video, take that away. Take away the fact that even though we have the FDA acknowledging that the COVID-19 vaccines killed American children, and if it killed American children, if the FDA is right, and why should we question a recognized government, health authority? Weren't allowed to before. Why should we do it now? Anyway, I'm rambling on. Keep it under an hour. And if you made it this far, please like, please share, please subscribe, and hopefully get the message out to more and more people and talk to everyone you know. Bring it up. Did you hear the FDA is acknowledging that the COVID-19 vaccines killed children? Children, little kids? Horrible. But there's still peace to be found because we're in his hands. He's got the whole world. Jump in those loving hands. Anyway, God bless. We'll talk to you soon. Good night.